Alrighty, what's going on, ladies and gents? Welcome back to the channel for another weekly update. Hope everybody's having a lovely weekend, and with that being said, let's dive into the TA. Alright guys, we're going to go over the indices. We got SPY, QQ, IWM, DIA, and VIX. Then we're going to go over the Mag 7 stocks. We have earnings coming up this week. Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, and Apple. We're going to go over the chips. And then we will go over some trade ideas at the end of the video just for you. So stay tuned for those. Now I'm going to start off the video by saying we had a strong close on SPY and QQ, especially S&P 500 last week. We are likely going to be continuing higher here in the short term. I do also want to say I think volatility is going to be spiking as well in the short term. I think we start the week up. You know, this is just my best case scenario here for what, we have laid out in front of us. I think we're probably going to, continue higher this week, but I am very open to a midweek reversal or end of week reversal. And if it doesn't happen this week, then I am assuming we probably start pulling back on the market, the broad market, next week. All right, but let's go over the charts. I don't think there's anything really to be too bearish on in the short term here. We got a solid close. The weekly candles here and the daily charts, 4-hour charts, they don't look all that bad. All right, so coming down to the daily time frame, let's go over the levels over here on the S&P 500 SPY. On the downside, guys, we have 636.15, 634.84, 631.54. You take out 631.54, you can have a larger sell. We're probably coming all the way back down here to 626.28. Underneath 631.54, we have 629.73, 627.86. 626.28, and underneath there we fall even further. On the upside, we have 637.58 Friday's high. Above there we're going to 640, and we have 642 and 645. I think those are possibly going to be hit this week, considering the strong weekly close here we just had. We just broke out of a 3-week range. We're probably going to get some further upside this week. All right, a lot of these upside moves, they like to happen with 2 to 3 candlesticks. All right, like, you got a pop, you get the continuation week, you got a pop, you get the continuation week, you consolidate. All right, well, now we just got a pop. We're probably going to get that continuation week. Okay, so those are the levels you're watching on SPY. Coming over to QQQ, you didn't get as strong of the close, but as we can see, bulls are still clearly in control here on the weekly time frame. All right, now coming down to the daily time frame, let's go over the levels. On the downside, 566.06. You break that, that brings you down to 564.35. You do not want to break there. I'm going to say this looks like it wants to continue up. It's very clear it wants to continue up here in the short term. But on the downside, you're watching a 564.35. You break that level, you can expect for the downside all the way, all right, to 560.80. I would say there's probably going to be a clean move down to 560.80. And the next big spot under there, it's 557.20. So let's go over the levels. Downside, we have 566.06, 564.35. Break that. That's your key level for the week right here. Break that. 563.29, 562.31, 560.80, 558.61, and 557.20, guys. If you struggle putting on levels that get your reactions during the market day, you can take them from me. All right? You can steal them. I give everybody them for free. 5 days a week in these videos. All right, just take them. They're yours for the taking. These will be giving you reactions. These are how you're going to, guide yourself through this market. All right, on the upside, we have 567.70. Break that. We're going 570, ladies and gents. Above there, we have 572, 575. All right, that is QQQ. Coming down over here to IWM. We could see you didn't close Friday in the most bearish manner possible. The weekly time frame also doesn't look all that bearish. You have 4 weeks of consolidation going on here. Technically, 3 weeks of consolidation. We see these doji candlesticks. They're, taking place in a bullish manner. We are probably going to be continuing up next week. All right, so on the upside, watch Friday's high, 224.60 above there, 226.14 above there. 227.98, 230.70. On the downside, watch Friday's low, 222.54. Underneath there, 220.66. You break 220.66, we'll just make that a blue level. You break that level, bad things can come. All right, you probably are coming down to 215.93. Coming over here to DIA. Does that look all that bearish to you? It definitely doesn't to me. I pointed out the bull flag when we were bullishly consolidating here into the daily 21 EMA. We just, slow and control. All right, we pulled back into that 21 key level 438.70. They turned it around, broke out of the bull flag, popped up to new highs. And guys, to me, this looks like it wants to go straight to all-time highs. I don't think there's a reason to be short-term bearish on the market right now. As I just said, once this thing starts, going, we normally get 2 to 3 green weeks, just like that. All right, we will get some further upside. We're technically still in this consolidation above 448.86. We're going to all-time highs 451.55, and then probably 455, 460. That's DIA. Now, coming over to VIX, this is why I think volatility is probably going to be spiking over the next week. I do think everything we just took a look at, all right, the indices, they suggest we're going higher. Short term, we're going higher. Start the week off, we're going higher. But VIX over here, all right, it's now got a 4-hour bullish divergence on the RSI. Normally, we either print these bullish divergences here on the 4-hour RSI, or we just come into oversold territory. We start bouncing back, like something over there, something over there. All right. But you can see this is a bullish diverge right there. Bullish diverge right there. Bullish diverge right there. Bullish diverge right there. You just tested it right there. All right. Test it right there. What I'm getting at is this is when VIX is going to start spiking again. This is when volatility enters back into the equation. Right now, it's just, price discovery mode to the downside. It's just, face planting. All right, you broke down from this whole range you got going on here. The next big spot is going to be 1474. We just might get there. But I'm telling you guys, it's not going to be too long before VIX starts having a spike. All right, so that's what, I'm just doing my best to prepare you guys for. I think that is going to be coming, but I also want everyone to know we're probably going to be going higher in the short term. I don't mean to confuse people. I want to give people, the whole broad picture point of view here. All right. And, what I'm seeing is we're going higher to start the week, but we might start selling by end of week. All right. And if not this week, could very well be selling next week. All right. Microsoft earnings are coming out. That thing is not pulled back at all. I would not be surprised to see Microsoft earnings actually give it a pullback. And then maybe market does get that pullback second half of the week. All right. Let's go over the Mag 7 stocks, guys. Let's get after it. Start off here with NVIDIA. Looks like it wants to go higher, guys. Above 174.25, we're talking 175, 178, 180. All right, you come over the weekly time frame. This isn't the most bearish candlestick. All right, it's just kind of, it is just showing consolidation. Sellers took you down. Start of the week. Buyers brought you up. By the end of the week, you didn't go anywhere. All right, you're likely going to continue higher off this, even if it's just something small. It's likely going to be the case. That's what the daily and the 4-hour time frame here suggests is likely going to be the case. Coming down to Tesla, you got quite a bid after earnings coming in here, guys. We get quite a freaking move. All right, 23 points. Now on the upside, you watch the 323.63 above there, 335.50. You break there, guys. That's where you rejected right over here. That was our key level. Above there, you have nothing until around 360, and at that point, a larger move is underway. I still think this is probably going to be breaking up, but you might as well just wait for the move to start up because you're still in consolidation. All right, on the downside, you have 314.74, 341, 294.86, 288.77. If you break 300, guys, you're probably going sub 273. You don't want to break 300. Coming over to Microsoft. All right, Microsoft, you have earnings on Wednesday. You also have Meta earnings on Wednesday. All right. It looks like it wants to continue higher above 514.64. We have Friday's high at 518.29, and then you have 520, 523, 525. It looks like it wants to continue higher. It's probably going to continue higher. The downside, you break underneath this level, 576. Bad things happen, but if it's going to happen, it's going to happen off of earnings. Like I said, this thing has not pulled back since this whole move. You just haven't pulled back. I will not be surprised to see earnings bring you right back here to previous all-time highs, 468.35. I know it's quite the drop, but, in reality, this thing has definitely gone straight up. If it starts pulling back, expect it to happen into the next week as well. All right, don't just go trying to buy that. You can if you want, but I'm telling you, once this thing starts pulling back, it usually gets multiple weeks of pullback. All right, you guys can see what I'm talking about. Once it actually starts pulling back, it's multiple weeks. So, yeah, I'm hoping we get it, and this could be part of the equation for that downside move there. This could be a potential catalyst for that. That's Microsoft. Coming over to Meta, you also have those earnings on Wednesday. I'm not going to say it looks bullish here on the daily time frame in the short term, but you are definitely in that bull flag looking pattern there. on the weekly time frame, this is where I say it's not guaranteed it's going to be making a move up to new all-time highs off earnings, pushing 800 bucks, but I honestly think that is probable. I do think we're probably going to make a real bullish move off earnings here with how this thing is set up. All right, we talked about this once you printed this week right here. We were saying it actually looked like in the short term that it was going to get bought because it was over here. But I said I wouldn't be surprised if that gets sold and we just stay consolidated into earnings. And guys, 3 weeks later, we have consolidated into earnings and gone absolutely nowhere. This is why we follow along with the charts. The charts will tell us what we need to know. Now we have a catalyst. Compare the catalyst with the chart. Probably going to be moving up off of earnings. So if I take a guess, bullish on Meta earnings on Wednesday after the bell. Bearish on Microsoft earnings. It could be wrong, and they could both be bullish, both be bearish. Not really sure. But that's how things are shaping up to me. All right, so that is Meta. I'll just go over the levels for you guys here in case anybody does want to trade in pre-earnings. Above 717, we have 72362, 728, 730, 753, 747.90. On the downside, 7087. If we break under there, that's right over here, daily 21, you're probably going sub 700 bucks. That's Meta. Amazon earnings are on Thursday after the bell. All right, I know it looks pretty crazy right here. I think this thing might be going up to all-time highs. If it doesn't happen off of earnings, I think earnings gives you a dip and then, likely consolidates for another, 1 to 2 weeks after that dip. And then I think we're going to start moving up to all-time highs. I think that is where this chart has a date with all-time highs. It might even happen off of earnings. I will not be surprised because, again, look at this monthly chart. It's only going to be like 1 to 2 more months before this thing gets up here. I don't think they're going to really drastically turn it down. We're going to see, 205, 210 again. I just don't think that's likely. All right. So be bullish on Amazon. The levels you're watching on the upside, 232.22, 234.07. I know you have this big wick up there. The high of day was actually 234.07. Above 234.07, you have nothing until 242.52 all-time high. On the downside, you have 230, 227.27, 223.72. Apple. All right. The other star of the show, Thursday after the bell. I think a big bullish move over here is loading on Apple, and I will not be surprised if that happens off of earnings. I'll be absolutely flabbergasted if this thing gets slammed down after, bullishly breaking out of this consolidation here. Now you're just consolidating right before the weekly cloud is about to flip bullish. Break and retest off that weekly 21 EMA. All right, daily time frame is getting pretty tight. It looks like it wants to break up. All right, on the upside, we have 214.56 and then 216.23. Once you break above 216.23, this thing is ready to move. Above there, 219.71 come quick. Above there, 225.70. I will not be surprised. We get, above 225 off of earnings. And then above there, you have 232.92 to 237.23. On the downside, 212.40. We don't want to break under 212.40. And then we definitely don't want to break under 208.42 at that point. This might all be a false move, and we're coming down. We're going timber. All right, that's Apple. Google, I told you on Thursday. I know it looked pretty rough with the give back we had. But in reality, it was pulling back right to where buyers had to defend here. Above Friday's high at 195.28, we're talking 198.16, and then 202.88, 208.70, all-time highs. On the downside, 192.61, break under there, you could have a larger pullback here at 187.37, 182.45. I do think it's another chart getting ready for all-time highs here. Look at the monthly chart. All right, it wants all-time highs. When that happens, before or after pullback, I really don't know, but it's so close that it might just go straight there. All right, I'm trying to show you guys that there's not, much to be super bearish about. I just think Microsoft might give us a pullback later on in the week. By that I mean Wednesday after the bell. I'm not sure exactly how this is all going to shape up, but I do think things as a whole suggest short-term upside is very likely. Coming over to the chips. All right, SMH, guys, this is your semiconductor ETF over here. This is everything as a whole. And, we've been bullish on it since right over here. And guess what? The thing is now at new all-time highs. It's just kind of consolidating, flagging, we could call it. All right, in a bullish manner here. Above 288.94, we're talking 293.53. We're talking 300 bucks. All right, the ETF, semiconductor ETF here, it wants to go higher. Everything's probably going to be going higher. you know, we come over here to some of these key chip names. TSM, it's about to bust through 248.28, go to 250, 255. You know, 255, 260 could very well be incoming this week. You had earnings, you had a pop off it, you pulled back, and now you're just continuing back up to the highs. Like, this is a trending stock right here. It wants to go higher. You come over here to ARM. All right. Although ARM has been a troll in the past, let's be completely real about it. It wants to make it back up to highs. I told you guys coming into this week that it probably wanted to come back up to highs. And guess what? It consolidated the whole entire week. All right. It's still likely about to break above 168.31 and head to 173.95. And depending how these earnings go, guys, maybe this thing wants to pop up to new all-time highs off earnings. We'll see. AMD. It looks like it wants to continue. We still haven't hit that target I told you guys about, 167.51. We're so close. All right. High of day on Friday was 167.18. We're so close. Expect it to be hit. Expect this to continue going higher this week. All right. 167.51, 174.05. It's AMD. AVGO. Again, it looks like it wants to go higher. You know, you pull back over here, reverted to the mean, daily 21 EMA, and you popped right back up, and now you're consolidating underneath previous highs, 290.54. Above 290.54, we're talking 295 to 300 comes pretty quick. Probably coming this week, 295 to 300. SMCI, now we're going to get into Henry's trade ideas going into the following week. All right, these are going to be some hot stocks ready to move that you can make some money off of. All right, so I hope people stay tuned for the end of the video, because the end of the video is the best part, baby. All right, we cover the broad market point of view. All right, everything we need to be paying attention to, you know, that broad market point of view. Where are things exactly going to be moving here as a whole? We cover that at the beginning of the video. We go over the levels on the indices. We go over the Mag 7 stocks. At the end of the video, I think it's the most important part. This is where every single week I give you an asset here. Okay, I give you guys every single week stocks that you could be making money off of. I think that is the most valuable thing when it comes to trading. All right, knowing where the money is going to be moving, knowing where the setups are. All right, and SMCI, part of that chip sector we just talked about, it's looking ripe. It's looking like it wants to start exploding. Let's see if we start getting some big movement above 54.30. It's breaking up from this consolidation here. You know, this range, technically it's only, you know, 2.6 points, but you get the whole pullback involved, and you got a 5-point range here. All right, above here, we're talking $60. It could be incoming. Above 54.30, we're talking 56.19, 60, and then 67.10. All right, that's SMCI. Oracle looks ready to pop back up to the highs. Keep your eyes on it. One that doesn't have earnings anytime soon, doesn't have those juiced up premiums, likely going to be pushing through the highs this week at 251.60. You can target 255 and then 260. SMR, all right. One I pointed out over here for the break above this area. All right, we broke above it early that week. Okay, on Monday, you had quite a freaking big move. All right, you broke out from this little base you got going on. You popped right up to new highs. You pulled back, reverted to the mean, and then you popped up to new highs. Now you kind of just consolidating. You got this two-day range going on. 4-hour chart says it's probably about to be going higher. All right, so you can watch this one for upside. It could potentially be getting a big move this week, okay? Above 52.24, you have 53.39 from there. We're talking $60, guys. 60, likely incoming this week on SMR. Oklo, another big mover I gave to you guys when it was basing out over here. And again on Monday, you got the big pop. All right, I gave you the level to watch was 59.14. What did we get? We got the big pop above 59.14, and it was off to the races, okay? It's now at new all-time highs, above 77.17. This thing's going straight to $80, and I won't be surprised if we see $85 to $90 come this week. All right, the thing is ready to move. Break and retest saw previous all-time highs. Heavy volume, increasing volume on this move up. After the decreasing volume on this consolidation / pullback, you just didn't have as heavy volume as you had on the big moves up. All right, so volume's coming back in the scene as price is moving back into price discovery mode. I like to see it. I think we're probably going to be going higher, even though that daily RSI is overbought right now. And if you pull back, it's probably something that consolidates here and then pushes up. Could take 1 to 2 weeks if that's going to be the case, but I think it's probably just going to push up in the short term. QBTS, be watching for the big break above 2056 this week. Could happen as soon as Monday. All right, but we're watching for it, and from there we're targeting 22 and then $25. Could go to 30, but I'd say 25 is going to be a safe target over here. QBTS. This is not a trade idea, but someone asked to cover it, guys. Just know you guys can join the Discord and I will do your ticker requests whenever you want. You can have unlimited ticker requests. All right. That is where you guys can request tickers. It's not going to be done in these videos. These videos, I make them to be used as an asset for you guys. Okay. I can't be covering all of the stocks that you guys want to cover because in reality, that's not going to work. That's not my system. All right. I'm not going to put it on everyone's fucking radar. It's pardon my French. When they're not moving. That's not the purpose of these damn videos, guys. Please stop requesting tickers in the comments. All right. If you got a setup that's ready to move, there's that. But, you know, the vast majority of them, I get like 5 to 10 every single video. All right. Guess what? I'm not going to do them. All right. You can join the Discord. I will check out your ticker. But, you know, that's where that's going to be. It's not going to be done in my YouTube videos over here, where my strict goal here is to provide as much value as possible for everyone. Everyone. That doesn't mean just you. That means everyone. Okay, and that means I'm not going to put people's eyeballs where they shouldn't be, because the vast majority of the tickers that people are going to be requesting are things they're going to be bag holding on, and they want Henry to take a look at it. But Henry is only here to provide value to the masses. Okay, not just to you. If you want a more personalized experience, you come join me in the Discord. There's ticker requests, but that's not, you know, really the main value provider over there. All right, I'm live every day. You got the focus list, you got continuous trade ideas, and you come trade with me. All right, you having trouble tracking where the money's going to be moving in this market? I'll help you out in real time. That link is down below. But that's also where you can get those ticker requests, because so many people want to ask about them for YouTube, guys. I'm telling you, I don't want to keep letting people's, you know, feelings down, but I'm not going to do your ticker requests. I promise. Why? Because I designed these videos the way I want, because they are meant to provide the most amount of people the most value. And that's not going to be, you know, fulfilling these little ticker requests that aren't moving. This thing is not moving. QUBT. I'm not saying any of this to be rude. Just know that is how it is. And if you request a ticker, I'm going to heart it, all right, in the comments, and I'm not going to respond to it. I'm just not. I do a whole crap ton for absolutely no cost to you guys. And, you know, I'm telling you, that is extra that you are going to have to either pay for or just like deal with it on your own. All right. If there's a trade idea, let me know about it, okay? But most of these ticker requests are people just bag holding stocks, and that is not how you make money in the market, all right? You want continuous movement in the market. Let's be real about this. This thing ain't moving until it starts moving. You got to break above 21.74 for this thing to start moving. Break above 21.74, go straight to 27.15. Maybe it starts going all-time highs, but until then, this is a dead stock. It ain't freaking moving. Let's be real about it, all right? And my personal pick, quantum theme, the thing that is moving, it's ready to freaking go, is QBTS. Why am I going to talk about these instead of the other quantum stocks? Why? Because this is the one ready to move. And like I just said, I'm here to provide trade ideas so people can make their money, not enter a stock that they're going to be bag holding on. All right. Some things, they don't work out. Okay. It is what it is. But, you know, most of these things that I'm putting on your radar here at the end of these videos, they are straight up ready to move. Okay, so please just be respectful and just know that I don't mean to let you down or hurt your feelings, but I will guaranteed not do your ticker requests when you request them in the YouTube comments like everybody wants to do every single day. Okay, again, not saying that to be rude, but I'm setting the standard there. It is not something I will be doing. All right, but QBTS, look for the big move to start up today. Shop. You have earnings next week, not like this week coming up, but the next week. I think it's probably going to be pushing back up the highs. Take out Friday's high at 125.57. I gave this one to you guys, by the way, all the way over here. We're not looking at it here. I gave it to you guys when it was consolidating. You broke above 117.36. You finally got a daily close. Boom. Big move started up. 120 to 130 in 2 sessions. All right. Now I think it's getting ready to go above 129.38. We're talking 140. 135, 140. But definitely queuing up for a big move here on the weekly time frame. MCD, I gave it to you guys down here. We had the bullish divergence here on the daily RSI, and when the RSI hit the same spot, it always bounces back from. Okay, that's when I gave it to you guys. I gave it to you guys for the reversion to the mean trade. All right, and what happened? The thing started popping the next 2 sessions, and then it pulled back, and now it's just been consolidating, doing absolutely nothing. Now it has this bull flag set up right underneath the weekly 21 EMA. I think it might be about to go. So you can put it back on your radar now. Above 298.86. That's the level you're really watching here. Above 298.86. We're talking 302.79 and then 305.20. 12. That is MCD McDonald's. Cost. Daily RSI is now oversold. If you look back, vast majority of the time, you bounce right back from oversold territory. Again, not all the time. Sometimes we've had crashes over the years. I don't think now it's going to be one of them. Start looking for buyers to step in here in the golden pocket. All right. We're going to see when, obviously, we will see in hindsight after the day that buyers really step in here because you're going to have a nice green candlestick. And you've had 5, 6 straight red candlesticks. Okay. This is on the daily time frame. But it is probably going to start getting bought up from the golden pocket, 9:15 to 9:45. That is cost. TOST, toast. All right. Gave it to you before the breakout and start breaking out. I think it was literally the next day I gave it to you. And now I'm telling you, it's still likely going to continue higher. We have earnings coming up, not this week, but next week. All right. Weekly chart suggests this is probably going to continue getting bought up, probably going to be grinding higher. I'm still looking for 50 to 52 bucks over here on Tossed. High is currently 49.20, break above 49.20. We're talking 50 and then 52. Hood, earnings coming up this week. We got increasing volume coming into the scene on Friday above 105.93. We're talking 110.31, 113.44. Again, has earnings, so I don't really don't know if it's the smartest decision to play it, but as far as the setup goes, it's a nice break and retest off 188, increasing volume on the, the move here. You got a bullish engulfing candlestick of the last 3-day range. All right, the thing might be ready to start moving early on the week, might even push up to new highs before earnings. Target. All right, target's one I gave to you guys when it was consolidation over here. All right, and then I said above 105.97, it goes to 108.76. We did go straight to 108.76. We started pulling back. All right, now I'm saying it's probably going to be continuing this move. Above 108.76, you have absolutely nothing until 120.21. You have earnings quite a ways away. We're talking like 3 weeks away, so you got some time in between here to move. And I do think this thing is going to continue up in the short term. Maybe it continues consolidating, but I'm going to keep it on the radar because I do think above 108.76 brings a move up to 120. That's target. Reddit, guys. Reddit is still just in consolidation here against that daily 21 EMA. The weekly time frame shows 2 weeks of consolidation now, both with, bullish candlesticks, both with those lower wicks being larger than the upper wicks. On the upside, break above 152.57. Could very well start that move up there. But, I'm just going to say it keeps just kind of getting these false moves up there. The original level is watching right over there. You got 2 false breakouts there, all right, last week. So I'm just going to say I think it's going to be moving here in the short term, but there's not a specific level I really want or feel comfortable with giving you guys that you say, hey, over there, it's going there. I'm just going to say the thing is very likely going to be pushing back up to the highs from here. Watch for that move to start happening. This is a base. Watch for it to start breaking up. And once it gets back up to 164.55, it probably goes straight to 174.22. All right, that's Reddit. DKNG, guys, it still hasn't moved. It's still in this bullish consolidation going on right here. It is likely going to be moving next week. You do have earnings coming in hot. All right, not next week, but in 2 weeks. All right, so I do think we can start getting this move before earnings this week. It looks on the weekly time frame. I told you last week this suggested it was probably going to be breaking up here in the short term. Now we close the week up right at the top of these last 2 weekly wicks. We're likely going to be continuing higher this next week. Keep it on your radar. All right, above 45.16, we go straight to 45.87. Above there, 48, and then 49.57. That is DKNG. Walmart started popping back Thursday and Friday, and now we have a sexy looking weekly chart once again. Might I remind everyone, we still are just in this bullish consolidation. We're likely going up to all-time highs. You got to break above 99.50 for that to start up. Once you break above 99.50, all right, I'm telling you guys, you break above there, the thing's ready to start moving. We're going straight to all-time highs, probably 1 to 2 weeks. You can expect to move up to 105 plus. You do have earnings coming in 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, just about. So expect that's going to be around the corner. But I do think we're probably going to be getting this move before earnings. All right, it's looking like it wants to start up. It's been consolidating for a really long time, guys. It's only a matter of time until consolidations end up breaking up. It is only a matter of time until these things do break up. And we have now been consolidating for almost 3 months. Okay? So Walmart, keep it on your radar. LLY, guys, I've been seeing a lot of bullish flow come into this name over here over the past 3 weeks. And, you know, most of them have been, I want to say September. We've had a good amount of August, September, and October calls. And, you know, I don't know if you're going to be making the move off of earnings, but I do think it's probably about to be getting a big move to the upside with how it's set up. And then pair that with, you know, all the flow we've been seeing. And yeah, I do think this thing is set up for a big move. I would say you could draw this trend line right here. All right, you can see it's starting to break. Either way, you have this range going on, 175, not 175, 755 up to 825, guys. That is a pretty big range right there, 70 points. Break out above 825, and, you know, 70 points just about brings you up to $900. So, yeah, I do think big move is probably coming over here, LLY, out of this consolidation. It's likely going to be to the upside. Keep it on the radar. VST. I'm not going to say it's really given us any setup to go off of in the short term here, but I am going to talk about something here. This thing is very likely going to continue higher from here. I don't know if that's going to be happening off of earnings. All right, you have earnings on August 7th, so not this week, but the next. I am not sure if this is going to happen off of earnings, but I will gladly point out that every single time you have pushed up to all-time highs, you don't stall out there. You go higher. You know, every single time. Except right here, but you didn't make new highs. Over here, you already did make the new highs. But, you know, you can see what I'm talking about. Every time you have a high, have a big pullback, and then push up to the high, you don't stop at the high. So I think this is very likely going to be continuing here. I know it doesn't look like the prettiest thing. We have like 5 or 6 weeks of range going on here. We haven't really moved. But I think it is only a matter of time until this thing does start trekking up to the upside. Maybe we do get a big move off of earnings. I'm not really sure. Most of these don't look like they really did much for the stock. Over there, you had a 7% move up. Over here, you end up moving down quite a bit. Over here, it was a nothing burger. But I will just say, technically speaking, this thing is probably going to be continuing up. And I think we're probably going to get 220, 240 over here, going over the coming weeks. So it's something to keep your eye on. BBAI, all right, something that's just consolidating here after having this big move up. All right, I know it looks a little funky. Okay, you're right here in the golden pocket. This is why, you know, golden pocket, guys, is a tool that you can put in your tool belt. All right, and guess what? It's going to serve you a lot of use. It's something that continuously gives you your areas of interest, your reaction spots on these charts. Okay, you can have your supply and demand, support and resistance, trend lines, moving averages. But something always in my equation is going to be the golden pocket. And you have been consolidating here in the golden pocket. You know, I know it looked like rejection over there, but boom, you got bought right back up. And I'm going to call this bullish consolidation here. It's getting real tight here in the golden pocket. And it does look like it wants to break up. I know it's not doing that right now, but this is probably going to end up breaking up. So let's just give you a level to go off of above 806, guys. If we get that alert hit this week of 806, we're probably going up, taking out 872, and then we start to move up to 1036, and then we're in price discovery mode until 1612. All right, big move can come over here, BBAI. I'm just trying to get you guys ready for it ahead of time if it is going to be the case. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed happening, and this consolidation can take longer than I am expecting. Okay, we have seen it before. But the vast majority of the time when we have something like this, it tells us it wants to make it up here. Sellers are stepping in exactly where they have to. But the fact that they're not getting slammed down, prices are getting slammed down from here, that is bullish. All right. BBI likely going to break up from this consolidation. Keep it on the radar. CAVA. All right. This is another one that I think is likely going to be breaking up from this consolidation. Now, we do have earnings in about 3 weeks from now. Okay. About 3 weeks, but we have 3 weeks before now, and then for price to move freely. Doesn't mean price isn't going to make a big move up off of earnings. We've seen them in the past. We've seen actually a lot of them in the past. Over here was a bad one. You know, before then, all of these were bullish. All of them were bullish catalysts until this last one right here, and that one. So the last two. But yeah, above 93.73, which I think they gave bad guidance. That is, you know, ultimately why we end up falling off a cliff here and we just kind of stayed down in the abyss. Is because they haven't started guiding up yet. So we're going to see what happens off of earnings, because I know off of all of these, oh, that was it. All right. They just kept guiding up. The earnings were great. All right. But now they haven't been. And, you know, I think the weekly chart is set up for a big move back to the upside. Above 93.73, guys, I think that move might be starting. Above 93.73, we can move up to 101.50 and then 109.23. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I feel like we're going to start moving up, and then earnings just going to bring us all the way back up here. And we'll be like, oh, damn, that was the easiest buying opportunity we've ever seen, and we didn't fully take advantage of. But, you know, at the end of the day, it is earnings, so there's nothing you could do about it. It's part of the game, and you got to go with the flow. All right, but that's CAVA. Probably going to start moving back up. PLTR, guys, I gave you this one last week. Like it was going to be pushing back up the highs. What happened, guys? We did end up breaking up above 155.68, but I gave it to you after this day on the pullback over here. Break and retest off 144.86 as well as 148.22. Two breakout levels right there. All right, they end up holding with this candlestick, and boom. Next day, we end up pushing through 150.179, and we pushed almost back up to the highs. And now, what do we hit, guys? That big 160 level. High of day, 160.39. So that was the target we gave you over here. I do think this is probably going to be continuing higher. Pullbacks are going to create buying opportunities until proven otherwise. Last thing I'm going to mention to close out the video is just going to be Bitcoin, guys. Bitcoin, Ethereum looks like it's going to be pushing up. It looks like it's going to be breaking on this consolidation this week. This is one to watch over here. ETHA is what you can trade it on if you want to trade options. If you don't just want to trade the crypto. Above this week's high, 29.26, is probably going straight up to 31.18. And then I imagine we're going, you know, 34, 35 bucks. But yeah, this looks like bullish consolidation to me, and you can see it a lot more clearly over here on Ethereum's actual chart here, okay? So above 3.86, we're going 4.1K, likely going to be the case. You can see here on the weekly, guys, it does not want to slow down yet, and I do think we're in one of these vertical periods right here where the thing just wants to keep going a little crazy for the time being, and strap in, get ready for the ride. It's happening. Now, our boy Bitcoin over here, guys, he's not moving yet. But might I remind you guys, bullish consolidation, a whole crap ton of bullish consolidation, we're likely going to be pushing up from this, okay? We got this range going on. We've seen these before. They're these, okay? They're these. Like, we don't know how long it's going to take here, but I'll tell you, they break up. And we just broke out from big consolidation going on there. And we're not even talking about just this. We're talking about all this crap. All right? Very likely going to be pushing higher. Break 121K. You know it's heading back up to 123.236, all-time highs. Probably within that day or the next session. That's when MSTR and coin are going to move. I know people want MSTR to go up. I do as well. All right, but I'll tell you, you tested the daily 21. I told you if we test it, even if you get that bounce, it's going to be the beginning of the end. I did think it would probably be getting a bounce back up close to the high, 445. We did not. We ended up just fading it. And now this is how the weekly chart looks. Does not look good. Doesn't mean it still can't, you know, bounce back here. It's just did not move according to plan. No, it did not. It gave us 2 weeks of upside. It did not give us 3 to 4 weeks of straight upside where it continued taking out those highs. And that was that. All right. But it is what it is. Can't do nothing about it. I still do think it's probably going to be going back up the highs off of Bitcoin going back up above 123K. But the real setup right now, you have... by the way, MSTR earnings are coming out this Thursday as well. So I don't think that's going to be... I mean, it could be good. All right. But if you get a pop off of that, I would be selling the pop. Just my opinion. But come over coin. This is really where the setup is right here. This is what held up perfectly fine over here coming into these earnings. You have Ethereum still looking like it's about to continue going crazy. You have Bitcoin that we know is likely going to continue going crazy over the next 1 to 2 weeks. It's only a matter of time. All right, it's only a matter of time. It's already been consolidating for 2 to 3 weeks. There's that. But straight up, coin is the one who, you know, slow and controlled manner, pulled back to the mean, reverted back to the mean, break and retest 382. Didn't quite hit it yet, but might hit it on Monday. Or, you know, you don't have to hit it. Regardless, you slow and controlled pull back off of decreasing volume here, off the big move up was on big volume. Yeah, I think this thing is clear as they're going to be pushing up and taking out current all-time highs 444.65. Maybe it takes a little while. Maybe it happens off of earnings. I imagine there's going to be some good things in those earnings. Again, Ethereum and Bitcoin are both doing their things. Ethereum specifically crypto is probably gonna be doing some good things over the coming weeks, and I imagine coin is gonna keep doing so with them. I know it's looking a bit hairy. It's been grinding ever since this big move up here. It's just been grindy. But at some point, you probably are just going to continue these impulsive moves up, and it might start resuming itself off of earnings this week. So something to watch. Also, Thursday after the bell. All right, guys, with that being said, that's what I have for you guys in today's video. I hope you enjoyed today's video. And if you did, please just remember to leave a like. This is the only thing I ask for. I put as much value as possible into these videos so you guys can make money. All right, I really do hope you guys are, at least saving yourself in these market. Don't be, getting demolished. The market is having a bunch of false breakouts right now. I do think we're going to be going higher next week. But again, we probably are going to have volatility re-enter the scene maybe by end of week. If not end of week, early next week is probably going to be the case. Something to get ready for, something to make sure you're not in a bad spot for. Okay, I want the best for you guys, and I hope you guys take care of yourselves. That being said, if you guys want to come trade with me, I'm live every day. That link is down below. And I will catch y'all in the next one. Everybody have a lovely rest of their weekend, and peace.